Hello, Milwaukee Bucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Bucks Latest presented by Fan Arch. As always, I'm your host, Dean Simon. And before we get into everything, please make sure to leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe. We are still on the road to 2,000 subscribers. So if that's a journey that you'd like to follow along with, if you feel inclined to do so, please press that big red button down below. And also turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on future videos. Okay, so we're going to just get into the obvious bad stuff from the beginning because after loss, the Bucks' first loss against the Cleveland Cavaliers, they will likely be without Cole Anthony, Kevin Porter Jr., and Kyle Kuzma. All KPJ and Kuz had the sprained ankles, and then Cole Anthony was out with a little bit of an illness, so it wasn't like an actual physical injury that he sustained. So it's more likely, I guess, that Cole would be back faster than the other two, but also just still something to keep an eye on as the Bucks head into a very tough game against the New York Knicks at home, which is something that we're going to get into. But something that I wanted to point out from the beginning is that I've seen a lot of comments saying that I'm kind of talking about Kyle Kuzma too much and that maybe I'm kind of overhyping him to start this season. But what I've seen from Kyle Kuzma genuinely has me excited. Oh my goodness, genuinely has me excited, especially when we think about the final stretch of last year and into the playoffs. Compared to that, Kyle Kuzma is already miles, leaps and bounds better than what he was to close out last season. And I believe this in the way that he's become a pretty solid playmaker to, again, in the first three games to start things. He's kind of been able to be a force of continuity if, let's say, Ryan Rollins, Cole Anthony, Kevin Porter Jr. aren't necessarily like at the controls in terms of driving into the paint, driving and kicking, throwing it out to three-point shooters, having the swing kind of offensive motion happen. Kyle Kuzma has become a pretty solid stand-in if, again, if guys like Cole, Kevin Porter Jr. aren't at the controls. And of course, it's in kind of smaller sample sizes, but from what I've seen, that he's at least more willing to attempt to make that extra pass or attempt to make that drive and kick, because last year he was kind of more in it for himself and backing guys down and only looking for his shot. But instead of backing a guy down and only looking for a turnaround jumper, he's keeping his eyes open, he's scanning the floor, he's looking to the opposite corner, and now he's more prone to throw that overhead pass to the corner to a guy like Ryan Rollins or a guy like AJ Green for for an open three-point look. So that and his defense, just the ability that he's shown to slide his feet, and he's pressuring ball handlers all the way towards half court. It's just, I've been very impressed just again with his energy level and just the amount of care that he's putting into his defensive effort and his stick-to-itiveness that he's shown as a defender to begin this year. But of course, without Cole Anthony, without Kevin Porter Jr., the Bucks are going to be running into a not necessarily a buzzsaw to begin this season, but the New York Knicks, of course, one of the titans of the Eastern Conference this past or last season, along with the Cavaliers, who the Bucks just met, and it really stinks for the Milwaukee Bucks to not be at full strength against either the Cavs or the Knicks, because obviously, again, two teams that they're more likely to face in a second round matchup or an Eastern Conference Finals matchup if things all go well, if the Bucks finish 81-1 like I'm planning for them to. So it stinks that you don't really get to see the example that you could have for a potential playoff series. You don't really get to, the film from this game won't necessarily have the same weight that it would in certain aspects, other than, if Kevin Porter Jr., Cole Anthony were in this game, Kyle Kuzma were in this game against the Knicks, and, if you weren't missing KPJ and Cole for the Cavs game, just the film won't resemble as much of a lifelike thing, like kind of real life situations that you're going to be running into with a fully healthy Cavs team and a fully healthy Bucks team meeting face to face. So it stinks that from the outset you kind of don't get that example of what it was like when Kevin Porter Jr. was facing Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, or when Cole Anthony was facing off against Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. So just that stinks in general. But of course, the meat and potatoes of this game will be Giannis against Karl Anthony Towns, Miles Turner against Karl Anthony Towns, and Miles Turner against whatever center that they might have standing in for Mitchell Robinson, and it will most likely be Ariel Helkporty. And Miles Turner will have the chance to pull Ariel Huckporty away from the basket, further opening up driving lanes for Giannis against a guy like Kyle Turner. Oh my goodness, against a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, who he's kind of bullied in the past in certain matchups. So it's going to be interesting to see how Miles can, just pull the opposing centers out, because I think Mitchell Robinson should be missing this game. At least I'm pretty sure. I think Josh Hart might also be out for this game too, as he's missing an extended period of time. He injured his lower back in the preseason, and they've kind of been holding Mitchell Robinson out for load management purposes. So there's a good chance that they don't face those two guys. But one reason why I listed this as a rough matchup is because the New York Knicks, even without Mitchell Robinson, without Josh Hart, two of their best pure rebounders, uh, other than Karl Anthony Towns, who was maybe first, second, or third in rebounding this past year, they're still, I think, third in the league in rebounding to begin this year. And again, that's without two of their best rebounders. And that's now going up against a Bucks team that's kind of been hanging around the middle of the pack, maybe 12th to 14th in team rebounding. So this is going to be a point of emphasis for Giannis, for Miles Turner, just to box out. And one thing that I could see the Bucks and Doc Rivers taking advantage of is maybe throwing in Jericho Sims for a couple extra minutes. Because if there's anything that Jericho Sims is going to be able to do against his former team in the Knicks, is that he's going to be able to once in a while catch lobs coming off of his movement along the baseline in the dunker spot, and he's going to act as a decent to serviceable rim protector. But the other thing that he's going to be able to do is just box out, thanks to his physical frame and just how he's built himself up as a player in recent years. Jericho Sims, that's something that he's going to be able to do, or at least try his hand at, is boxing out guys like Karl Anthony Towns and like Ariel Huckporty, who's not necessarily the worst backup option for Mitchell Robinson, but maybe a guy like Jericho can, even though he's still very young himself, maybe he could take advantage of Ariel Huckporty's inexperience in actual meaningful regular season minutes. And maybe he can kind of take advantage of that matchup in the way of, he can just be a bruiser. And aside from just his high flying ability, that's kind of how we know Jericho Sims to be. So I mean, going into this game against the Knicks, I have two X factors, two guys that I really think are going to make a big difference in this game, but not necessarily come out like in and have the biggest of roles to begin things. Well, other than Ryan Rollins, because with Cole out, with KPJ out, Ryan Rollins is going to have another chance against, again, one of the Eastern Conference Titans from last year to build a little bit more comfort with being a lead ball handler and kind of handling those responsibilities. And we saw against the Cavaliers, he was successfully able to kind of get a rhythm going and again develop that kind of confidence, that kind of chemistry with Giannis and with Miles Turner as a as screen and roll tandems, and going forward against the Knicks, even without needing to call Giannis and Miles Turner in for pick and roll actions. Ryan Rollins, the reason why he can be such an X factor in this game, I think, is because if he's matched up one on one with Jalen Brunson, I am more content than maybe most with just letting Ryan Rollins operate on an island against Jalen Brunson, because while he's not the worst defender in the world, and he's actually one of the best charge drawers in the NBA, or he has been for the past couple of years, Jalen Brunson is, of course, just flat out not as quick as Ryan Rollins on the perimeter, and it'll give him Ryan Rollins, that is, plenty of opportunities to drive right past, collapse the defense, and penetrate the paint. And then it'll open up looks for AJ Green and the Gary Trent Jr.'s and Torian Princes of the world. And for guys like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, who are great help defenders and they're amazing at stunting, if Ryan Rollins can make a couple of good decisions in a row and break the paint, collapse the defense, then get a guy like Mikal Bridges helping off of AJ Green in the corner. If Ryan Rollins hits him with an accurate pass, AJ knocks down the three, then AJ gets into a rhythm. Then guys like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, who are amazing at kind of acting against a drive and kick, kind of like swing offensive style that the Bucks have tried to go with to begin this year at kind of an extended rate because of how many threes they're jacking up this year. Um, Going up against those guys, if Ryan Rollins can break the paint, make good decisions, hit the AJ Greens, the Torian Princes, the Gary Trent Jr.'s, and they start knocking down their shots, then it's just going to further open up driving lanes for Giannis and for Miles Turner to get things going towards the basket. Because at the end of the day, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, they're going to have to respect. They're going to have to respect Gary Trent Jr., Torian Prince, AJ Green, because those three guys were at the top of the league in 3-point percentage this past season, and those are guys that you just flat out have to respect. So the reason why Ryan Rollins is going to be the X factor is just developing that level of comfortability against great Eastern Conference teams, as he did against the Cavaliers with, I think, 14 points, 8 assists, and just kind of getting into a rhythm as a playmaker. He has a chance to do that against the Knicks, and I really think he's going to be successful in that role, and why I believe Amir Coffey is going to also be an X factor. Simply put, because the Knicks bench unit just has not been up to snuff with other bench units in the NBA, and especially after bringing in two of basically their marquee free agent signings with Jordan Clarkson, with Gershon Yabusele. Neither of those guys, after coming off a pretty good seasons for their respective teams, neither of those guys have been able to put the ball in the basket, throw a rock in the ocean, or just really impact the game in any suitable way. Because Gershon Yabusele is not, he hasn't really thrown himself into certain actions and kind of taken it upon himself to be aggressive as a scorer. He's kind of, acting more as a complementary force, a guy that's giving up the ball, going to the corner, maybe setting a couple screens. And Jordan Clarkson, we know how he's operated, former sixth man of the year, just one of those Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams type of guys that he's just throwing up shots off the bench, and that's just his main thing. He's a microwave scorer. We know how skilled he is, but he just has not been efficient at all. Just is not putting the ball in the basket for the Knicks to begin his tenure with the team. So Amir Coffey coming into a game like that, he seriously has a chance to outperform both of the Knicks' top free agent signings and key bench pieces simultaneously. He has the chance to be better than both of those guys single handedly if he can, himself develop a flow in the beginning of the game. If he can knock down a catch and shoot three, if maybe he catches the ball on the in the right corner, throws up a pump fake, gets somebody jumping, attacks that closeout, maybe hits a turnaround fader in the mid range, or if he gets all the way to the basket, finishes with a two-hand dunk. That's what made him such an important piece for the Los Angeles Clippers this past year, and what led to him being a 40+% 3-point shooter, had a career year in efficiency. He was able to do that, but then also use and leverage that efficiency that he stacked up throughout the year to then attack closeouts and get easier looks and kind of keep the offense flowing. So if he has the chance, or if he can do that against the Knicks, against Gershon Yabusele, against Jordan Clarkson, as he's going to be going against the Knicks bench unit for most of this game, he has the chance to really impact things, and he can maybe use this game as sort of a jumping off point to earn a little bit more playing time down the road. And right now, I thought it would just be nice to look around the Eastern Conference and kind of point out that things are going exactly how we predicted them to, with the top two seeds in the Eastern Conference and two of, I think, the four undefeated teams left in the NBA so far after 3 games, or 4 games for some teams, are the one-seeded Chicago Bulls and the two-seeded Philadelphia 76ers. Man, VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey, what an unbelievable duo in Philly that's starting to fester over there, with Maxey now putting up multiple 40+ point games in their first 3 outings, and VJ Edgecombe, of course, having that incredible 34-point debut. That's going to be a team that's really going to be on the Bucks tail, and isn't a team that they should be taking lightly, though the 76ers depth is not on par with the Bucks at all. So I'm not really concerned in that aspect, and with Embiid saying that he basically doesn't want to be around and he'd rather just kind of let the team do what they want to do, and he doesn't want to bother anybody, and Paul George missing time, that's going to be looking like more of a positive thing as the year goes along. And something else, other than the Bulls and Modest Buzelis, Nikola Vucevic, Josh Giddey, all having amazing seasons to start out and looking like a formidable opponent, the Charlotte Hornets at the 4 seed at 2-1. LaMelo Ball has been outstanding so far this year, though granted, his best game, I think it was 38 points, 13 rebounds, 13 assists, came against the Washington Wizards. So, as much as I like to talk about how dominant the Bucks were in their opening night win against Washington, you kind of have to take those things or those games with a little bit of a grain of salt, because it's the Washington Wizards at the end of the day. But LaMelo Ball playing fantastic ball. Brandon Miller, he was looking pretty great to start out, but he's gonna, I think, miss some time with an injury. So that's not a good sign for them to begin things. And Con Knipple as well has been awesome. Do I think that LaMelo Ball's play like this is sustainable? The quick answer is no, because it hasn't been throughout his entire NBA career to this point. And he has yet to have another consistent, kind of always on the floor type season for the Hornets after his All-Star breakout in 2022. So am I really concerned about the Hornets? No, it's kind of those beginning of the season things where teams like the Bulls, like the 76ers get out to hot starts, but the actual contenders and again titans of the conference in the Knicks, the Cavaliers, they'll eventually show. And of course, the Bucks do have a chance to be a part of that top 3, top 4 grouping simply because of the lack of talent in the Eastern Conference, and that the Celtics are kind of taken out of the equation, and as they got their first win of the year against the New Orleans Pelicans just today. So it's there's going to be a lot of wiggle room for the Bucks to make a real push for a top 3 or if anything top 4 seed, and that's how things are looking in the Eastern Conference to this point. But that'll be it for me today. Thank you very much for tuning into another episode of Bucks Latest, once again presented by Fan Arch. And once again, I've been Dean Simon. And before you go, leave that like, leave that comment, tell me what you think down below, and subscribe. Also, turn on those post notifications so you don't miss out on future videos. All right, I will see you guys in the next one. Go Bucks.